So we're going to start with the Times Ireland edition, and Bielsa orders his team to concede goal is the headline on the back of this one. Dramatic scenes in the Leeds Villa game. Villa had a player down injured. We're going to kick the ball out. Didn't. Leeds scored. Kerfuffle on the sideline. Bielsa tells his team, 10 of the team seem to get the memo that they should let Villa equalise. The Leeds centre-back tries to stop him. There's a row after that again after Villa score. Game finishes 1-1. Villa have a man sent off for nothing. Patrick Bamford falls over because he gets looked at and gets... was Jonathan Khadija sent off or was it somebody else? Mings?
No,
I'll tell you now exactly who it was. Go on. What else happened?
What else happened in that? Like, obviously the swinging of the arm and the flailing kind of body of Patrick Bamford after that.
Anwar El Ghazi was sent off, sorry.
For absolutely nothing, as you say. And the question now has to be asked, does Mick McCarthy stop calling Patrick Bamford? He's like, no, we don't want you anymore.
No, straight in.
We wanted you before.
If you can keep your head about you when all the rest of them are straight into our team. Bielsa gives Villa goal is the headline on the back of the Sun this morning. Rulers, City inch towards title thanks to legend Sergio. Millimetres, lads, it's millimetres in post and pre-Brexit world that we work in Europe. Ole sticks by dodgy De Gea and keen on striker Pat. Mick McCarthy is looking at some League of Ireland strikers.
The Irish Times this morning is leading with Guardiola thankful for technology. Pretty relieved Pep Guardiola going to the officials at the end of the game yesterday. Millimetres, as the Sun have helpfully pointed out, that's exactly how much it was over the line by. Solskjaer backing De Gea despite his latest error. A lot of talk now that David De Gea could potentially be dropped. Solskjaer is going to back him. And then Jerry Thornley writing this morning that Munster are anxiously awaiting update on Murray's neck injury. So this is worrying news or concerning news at the very best for Munster at the moment. Van Gran to give a big update today on the injury situation of Joey Carberry, Keith Earls and Conor Murray.
The back of the Irish Daily Mail this morning. City inched their way to the title, and that is the goal that was given against Burnley yesterday. Pep closes in on Crown as winner, crosses the line by 29 millimetres. And Emery proud to lose 3-0 is the headline. Unai Emery made the astonishing claim that Arsenal performed well and expressed pride despite his team slumping to a third defeat in 8 days, losing 3-0 at Leicester to dent hopes of a top 4 finish.
The back page of the Mirror this morning goes with the headline 29.51 millimetres. That could be the difference between winning and losing the title, as goal line technology gives Aguero's City winner. Then we've got De Gea drops a clanger once again, and fights and freebies in the battle of Leeds and Villa.
Yeah, sorry, and I missed the picture on the back of the Times Ireland edition. Mayo Women's Marathon Joy, Sinead Diller, 42, who was born in Mayo but now represents Australia after moving there in 2002, ran a brilliant race at the London Marathon to finish 7th and qualify for next year's Tokyo Olympics. So there will be some Irish representation, it looks like, although I don't know if there are others from Australia who might qualify for that as well.
The Irish Daily Star goes with game of inches, and De Gea is safe despite Howler. Meanwhile, mark of respect by Bielsa. Bielsa praised for his sportsmanship after the extraordinary incident yesterday at Elland Road.
The Racing Post, Henderson headache over Altior's King George route. Nicky Henderson would like to give Altior's next start over 2.5 miles in preparation for the record-breaking Chasers tilt, the 3-mile King George the 6th chase in December. The trainer said he'll spend the summer wrestling with the options for Altior, who took his unbeaten run to 19 when landing the celebration chase at Sandown on Saturday. Walsh eyes dream start to big week. Ruby Walsh is hungrier than ever for the Punchestown Festival after missing last year with a broken leg, and he could kick off this year's meeting in spectacular fashion tomorrow thanks to rides and the big Grade 1 hopes Classical Dream, Min and Get a Bird. So would you back against a trio, a treble for Ruby? You wouldn't. One step closer, City 2 wins away from retaining the title after Turf Moor victory.
The back page of the Herald today goes with surge for glory. Pep is grateful for small margins as City top again, and Ole backs De Gea despite blunder. A bad week for David De Gea just got worse yesterday.
The front of the Examiner this morning, game of inches. Aguero edges City over the line to go point clear of Liverpool, and there's obviously a picture of David De Gea as well. De Gea howler, huge blow for Man United hopes in race for 4th. It's a great piece on the Mayo New York game, written by one of the panellists in New York, who's also a freelance journalist in the Examiner today. Double page spread. Diver delivers. Mayo-born runner secures Olympic qualification for Australia, and Irish provinces keeping powder dry in the Pro 14 race. We'll get into that a little bit later on. Round O'Gara. And then best and worst of GAA in one Donegal club is Michael Moynihan's piece on the back. talking about the situation in Donegal. He's also talking about the new documentary series, which is airing on RTE tonight, GAA Ella, which he is part of the production team for. It's obviously hosted by Dara Conaja and made by Pat Comer. But they're also talking about the fundraising efforts around Paul Dillon of the Nave Cullumkill GAA club in Newtown Cunningham, who was diagnosed with motor neuron disease, and the situation there, which obviously is a bit of a scandal.
The Guardian goes with a picture of Sergio Aguero unbelievably happy and Tom Heaton unbelievably devastated. Small margins, big reward. Aguero was all smiles after his goal, given by goal line technology after the ball crossed the line by 29 millimetres, put City back in full control of the title race. And you've also got Solskjaer's quotes there once again. Not the reason we are sixth. Solskjaer backs De Gea after latest howler cost United dear. And Top Guns, Arsenal seal Women's Super League title with thumping win over Brighton. Good Irish involvement there. Manchester City haven't lost a single game in the Women's Super League and have lost a title, which is incredible. It just shows how ruthless Arsenal have been. I think, what have they drawn? 4 games potentially? And all the rest have been wins. And then finally for me, it's a Daily Telegraph going with Sergio Aguero as well. Aguero inches City closer to the title. Striker puts City back on top after technology awards winning goal. And Mo says, I'm sorry. Farah apologises after defeat.
He didn't really, though.
He didn't really.
He was like, no, I don't have no regrets. And that was the video, anyway, that Carl Denny posted yesterday of the post-match huddle, post-race huddle, where he was like, and everybody around is the braying of the press people are like, oh, talk about the race. It's like, well, no, because he didn't actually do that well in the race. We can have that now here. So Carl Denny posted this on his Twitter account yesterday. Watch this, because it's one of the world's most famous athletes, the week where he's been accused by another of the world's most famous athletes of trying to get a notorious coach into his hotel, and definitely got questions to answer. Remember, Mo Farah brought this whole thing up himself by raising the whole issue of the money that he had stolen from his hotel room in Haile Gebrselassie hotel in Ethiopia when he was training. Have a look.
I think the most damaging thing that he said, really, when we look at it, is that this all started with trying to get Ger and Eoin into the hotel. How do you address that?
That's a bit below the belt, isn't it?
But is it untrue?
It is untrue. And I already respect to Gary, my coach, and my training partner Bashir, who's run a national record today, can prove it. Jake from New Zealand, who's there, can prove it. But at the same time, let's not talk about it. Let's talk about the performance of Elliot. Keep chugging. You can't take anything away from him.
But Mo, if there is to ask one more question,
please.
Well, I think we need more than one. But Mo, if we were to ask one thing on this thing, I mean, this thing with Ger and Eoin, it's not going away. I mean, when would you say was the absolute last time you even saw this guy or spoke to him?
Can we talk about a race, guys?
We will in a moment, but it's been front page news.
There was a 249, 249, about 249, 250.
Yeah, there's another good minute there of Mo Farah answering questions about the race before eventually he gets asked again about it. An odd sequence of events, but you don't come away from it thinking Mo Farah, stand-up guy, has been round here. He's really coming out and addressing all the issues that have arisen from this thing that he brought into the public domain himself. This reminds me a lot of the just the immediate aftermath of there being an incident outside Tiger Woods' home all those years ago where somebody attacked his car with something. It's like, what's going on here? This is all a bit weird, isn't it? It's all just a little bit weird. It's funny how things kind of one little strand of a story leads to another, and you're like, so Haile Gebrselassie was accusing you of trying to get Ger and Eoin, who you said you don't really know that well, even though there's photographs of you and Ger on his kids' Instagram long after you said that you weren't no longer in touch with this guy. It's a bit weird, isn't it? The whole thing's just a bit weird.
Just to clarify the apology comment, he said, I'm sorry I disappointed you. But that was in relation to his performance yesterday and a poor run. Like, in terms of this incident, he's done the exact opposite of apologising for, or anything resembling an apology. He said, I did have a big week in terms of what's happened, but I stand by every word I said. It is the honest truth. I don't regret anything I've said. I stand by what I said. It's the truth. So just to clarify, Mo Farah has not apologised or anything like apologising for those stories.
No, he certainly hasn't. Let's move on, because we're talking a little bit about Leeds and Villa. Obviously, the allowing Villa to equalise ended up having repercussions for Leeds' chances. They weren't going to, I mean, they probably were screwed at that stage anyway. Although if they'd won 1-0, they still would have kept Sheffield United from officially qualifying, or officially finishing second, would they?
Probably a stay of execution. There's 5 points between them now at this point. Sheffield United obviously getting automatic promotion. And like Leeds United are in that perilous sort of third position where the playoff winner invariably doesn't come from the third position, or in situations like this, like I'm devastated for that possibility that Leeds United aren't going to get promoted. Like as much as we've got an Aston Villa fan sitting here in studio,
What?
like Marcelo Bielsa is
another
is
season in
just
the Championship. That's all he needs just to perfect it.
If they don't get promoted this year, there's every chance Bielsa just doesn't continue on, is there?
Well, yeah, I mean, you would have to assume a good Premier League team is looking at what he's done and gone, okay, yeah, come on down. No?
Well, potentially there's certainly that opportunity for him, you'd imagine. But he's just such an amazing character. Like, I'm not sure what I necessarily have been screaming at my players to allow the goal to be conceded yesterday, but when you see it happen, you're like, this is mad, and this is actually really nice to see.
Yeah, it was the right thing to do.
And just that defender actually kind of taking it upon himself to try and stop that equaliser happening just made it all the better. And it was the fight that made it all the better. The only kind of thing that was the sourest note of it all really was Bamford's dive, which is remarkable given how the first goal was scored.
Yeah, Villa did have a player sent off who might now miss some games in the playoffs. Presumably he gets it rescinded, but maybe not.
I'd like to think so.
I mean, yeah, maybe not. Like, he didn't quite raise his hands, but like, there's enough stuff in the general direction, is there? I don't know. So Patrick Bamford, there isn't. He didn't even raise his hands. I don't know.
I think that's. We've seen a couple of those incidents yesterday. We saw it from James Maddison as well, from Leicester, kind of going down extremely easily. And this is an English problem now, isn't it? This is no longer the La Liga's issue, no longer the Continentals.
Patrick Bamford's suddenly Irish, is he? That's what they're going to be like. It's an English problem. It's an Irish problem.
Do we take that problem? You know, do we take that problem on the chin and absolutely welcome Patrick Bamford into the team? I'm not sure, but Bielsa, of course, afterwards. There was another kind of string to this. Bielsa with a very funny. I'm just such a big fan of Bielsa, and everything he does is either extremely smart, intelligent, or just quite funny. And he was trying to pronounce Ipswich in the post-match press conference here.
¿Qué seriedad tiene su lesión y si va a estar presente para los playoffs?
Supuestamente va a poder estar disponible para el partido de Ipswich. Bueno, me doy por derrotado.
Okay, I give up.
It is weird, Ipswich.
Yeah, it is. Like
When you haven't grown up knowing the name, it's weird. It's like,
it's not a normal piece of language, Ipswich. There's weird consonants in weird places when it comes to Ipswich, so you can't really blame them for that. Like the immediate thought that comes to mind when you're watching a game like this yesterday is that the Championship once again proves itself to be one of the best football leagues around. But what often kind of comes in line with that is the Championship is one of the best football leagues around because it's real, because there's an authenticity to it, because the players are good and honest and all that. And yet one of the great storylines involved in all this yesterday was a guy diving. So it's a double-edged sword when it comes to the glorification of the Championship this morning.
It has all the problems of money now that comes with money in football, right? Because there's so much money involved.
Yeah, maybe the pure greatness of the Championship was at its peak a couple of seasons ago. And maybe now we're all waking up to the idea that this is actually the best, most competitive football league they've got in England at the moment, and one of the most palatable from a viewer's point of view. Because do we take this sort of... Like it is quite interesting contrasting it to the Premier League at the moment, when you've got two superpowers doing La Liga-esque things to the rest of the table, to the 18 other teams in the division. And the Championship, I know it's kind of a cliche, and the top team do have 91 points, but anyone can beat anyone in the Championship. And the way that top six has changed and everybody's kind of gone through the playoff spots has been remarkable once again this year, as you come to expect. And it's that thing, which would you rather prefer? Which would you prefer to watch if the standard wasn't as I guess, different when it comes to both divisions.
Yeah, except the standard in the Championship has got way better. So here it is. What is it about 28th of April and Leeds United, says Adam Pope. 1969 became champions of England for the first time. 2007 relegated to the third tier. 2019 make the 10 o'clock BBC News for fair play by allowing Villa to score an unopposed goal. I mean, Leeds United and fair play, is this the first time in their history that those two words have ever been put beside Leeds United? Is it? Like, because it's definitely not on brand.
Well, I wonder what John Giles thought of this show of sportsmanship yesterday. Like, would he think to himself it was a disgrace by Bielsa to actually shout onto the pitch to allow that goal to be conceded? I'll be interested to hear his take on Thursday. I just, like, I certainly have hope for the game when you see Bielsa run onto the pitch and do that, or basically stand on the pitch and do that. Like, it's not something I would have done. I definitely would have said, well, you know, tough for you. I mean, you let the guy run through, but ultimately, it's the way the goal was scored. The first goal was scored.
I guess the other thing is that it didn't matter for Villa. They're already qualified for the playoffs. And really, what happens in the playoffs at this point, you're going to have to win your semi-final, and then the final's a one-off game. So it doesn't matter. It didn't really matter. It wasn't like you're getting home seeded the whole way through to the final and you've got home advantage, which wouldn't have happened anyway. But like, they were doing Villa a favour who didn't need the favour.
Yeah, it's true, which kind of makes it more remarkable. If it was the other way around, you'd think to yourself, well, fair enough, they've allowed them to score when really they're just going to be a playoff team anyway. I don't know. Well, like, what's your current take on what Villa are doing? Are they front runner to get promoted from the playoffs?
Well, their form is amazing.
Yeah.
So that was the first wobble in form that they've had in 2.5 months. So we'll see. You kind of want to just keep it going now, make sure the bounce doesn't tail off or whatever. The other news from the weekend that was football related that you talked about. So Man City won every game. No, we're unbeaten in the Women's Premier League. Katie McCabe and Louise Quinn are in many of the newspapers today to celebrate Arsenal women's victory in the Women's Super League. So congratulations to them. We're hoping to speak to one of them a little bit later on in the week. And the only other thing that really was of massive significant national relevance was just a little bit of a knock to the neck that Conor Murray took in the build-up to the game against Connacht at the weekend. He was in the warm-up. Somebody dunted John Klein. Klein knocked off him, and immediately he grimaced. Gavin Cummiskey has some good stuff in the Irish Times about just the order of it, and how immediately Conor Murray looked a little distressed.
Yeah, it's every single knock that somebody takes at this point, particularly somebody of Conor Murray's standing, is just a mini heart attack for all Irish rugby fans around the country. And it must be, like, Gavin Cummiskey details the body language of Conor Murray afterwards, who was clearly either annoyed or kind of like very sad at what had happened, and clearly this is something that's going to annoy him for a little while longer, and we don't know the full extent of this. The question now is, like, we just don't know what exactly is going on or the severity of it. Does Johan van Graan risk him in certain games? Does it become a situation where, you know, it's been mentioned quite a lot over the last 10 days or so, but the Munster being run by the IRFU, do Munster make decisions if you've got a 50% or even a 70% Conor Murray? Do you play him, say, against Leinster in a Pro 14 semi-final?
No, and I think that's one of the benefits of having Johan van Graan sign a new contract over the last couple of weeks, is that he knows his job is safe. The backroom team know their jobs are safe. They're like, so if we're taking this one for the national team, you know, so be it. It was interesting in the post-match comments of Leo Cullen, he was asked about, you know, are you worried about the team not maybe being firing on all cylinders? And he was like, no, because they played their B team basically, and they'd done exactly the same thing last year. So their full team won't play again until the Champions Cup final on the 11th of May, which is 2 weeks away. And he was making the point that we did this last year, and after that, the team played really well in the Pro 14 semi-final, the Pro 14 final, and then many of them went off to play 3 tests. I was like, well, that's interesting. He's actually talking about his responsibility to the Ireland team there and how important that's part of his job. Whereas, you know, previous Leinster coaches would have been Matt O'Connor was the one specifically who was complaining about the absence of the players during the Six Nations and not being able to choose them. So Leo Cullen obviously feels like his job is presenting them ready to go for the national team too. So I guess if that's your outlook on it, then you understand things much better.
Well, you know the gig when you're getting into it. You know the situation when you're a Leinster or a Munster head coach. Part of your role is as an IRFU employee, and as an IRFU employee, the most important thing is the Ireland national team. Now, the different question is whether or not that should be the case. Like, I mean, just looking around at some of the stuff written about Munster over the past 2 weeks since the semi-final defeat, like, is the way to break through the glass ceiling possible when you are ultimately an IRFU-run club? And the answer to that is probably not. There is probably going to be an insane level of, not an insane, a healthy level of overachievement required if a Champions Cup, another Champions Cup title is going to be delivered.
Why?
because our Leinster's resource is not much bigger. Ultimately, if you talk about players, like the term feeder club for Leinster, or sort of getting the scraps of what Leinster have left over going down to Munster, for example, it's sarcastically thrown around. But
it's not the case because they just got one of Leinster's best players.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So if you kind of take that to its end conclusion, is that really the case in terms of Leinster losing their best talent to Munster, or is it a player who necessarily wouldn't be starting in Leinster's best 15? Is there a situation here where Munster, as a fully self-sufficient province, are able to go toe-to-toe with Leinster year after year, or Europe's best?
Yeah, I think that there has to be, and they have to organise themselves with that intention in mind. And like the organisation of the schools game in Leinster has provided one of the best academy feeder systems in world sport to Leinster, free gratis and for nothing. They don't have to pay a single penny for the training of the 12 to 17 or 18 year olds as they are in school, and they get some involvement then kind of with academy players, you know, from 15 to 19. They're kind of looking at these players and starting to say, okay, when it comes time for you to join our academy, you can be one of our players. But they're not paying out any money for that. In Munster, it's completely different. They actually have to now go and scout players who aren't playing in the school system and broaden that. And you can do that. You can totally do that. And they have an architecture in place to do it. It's just about making sure that it's funded properly. And they don't have the natural advantages that Leinster have. But I think there's a lot of fatalism about a team that reached the semi-final but was missing its two best attacking players. Like, Keith Earls is unbelievably important in these big games, particularly for Munster, where he is a standout player. And we're beginning to see what Joey Carbery can do and the difference that he can have in a team. Like, it didn't look like they were in the game. That was the worry. But Saracens are like one of the most expensively assembled teams in history, and they're one of the best teams that the competition has seen. So I don't know.
The most encouraging thing from all of this is that we're still on for a Leinster-Munster game in the RDS or wherever it may be. Christmas time was amazing. Like that game at Christmas was brilliant. It was one of the high points of the rugby season, and I'm not going to lie, it was because we saw people from the same country fighting each other, and it was a beautiful sight. And maybe we can see that again in a Pro 14 semi-final. That is the big positive to take away from this.
Yeah, all right. That's it for your papers for now.